This is Danny Flexant here for SecondsOut. I'd like to be joined by top trainer, manager, promoter as well, of course, Joe Gallagher. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Really, first time here at BT Studios. Really impressed with the setup and yeah, looking forward to Saturday night with Mark.
That's Mark Heffron, of course. He's challenging for the British super middleweight title. It's his third British title shot, but first at this weight against Lennox Clarke. Just tell us the ways in which Mark's improved since he started working with you, because he's been with you a little while now.
Yeah, Mark started his professional career with me back in 2010-11, then went round the world, and he's back. He's had 2 fights with me now, both stoppage wins, and he's had a very, very good camp, a tough camp, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's been a very tough camp, but he's listened, he's learned, and I'm looking forward to him putting in his career best performance on Saturday night.
How's he changed since the first time around you had him? Like you said, he's been around different people, probably picked a few things up, and then he's been with you for a bit longer again as well. What's he like now compared to then?
Mark, when he was first turn professional, he was young, he was reckless, and an exciting fighter and a puncher, and he still is. Them two things: an exciting fighter and a puncher. But he was a class amateur as well. So we've just had to remind him of his amateur pedigree. He's been around, like you say, different trainers, picked up different things along the way, and here we now come Saturday night. But Mark, like you say, he's 30 years of age, and some of us will say this will be his last opportunity of winning a title of some sorts. So, no, there's just one. There's the British, the Commonwealth, and the IBF, whatever belt there is on the line with it as well.
What do you make of Lennox Clarke? He, did look really good winning the title, but then we haven't seen him since. He's been inactive.
No, I'm a huge fan of Lennox Clarke. I like Lennox Clarke. I'm just full of huge admiration for him, for someone that's only had, I think it was 7 white collar boxing fights, and then to turn over into the professional game, become British and Commonwealth champion. That's a huge achievement, so it just deserves respect and full credit to him and his team. He had a fantastic win against Willie Hutchinson, and I'm sure he's frustrated that he hasn't been able to crack on with it, but here he is now, and he's got another tough fight with Mark Heffron Saturday night, and I'm expecting the best Lennox Clarke. Errol Johnson's fighters are always fit. They're coming off a good win with Tyler Denny the other week, and yeah, it's got to be an exciting fight.
And looking at some of the other members of your stable, I saw you put on Twitter recently, negotiations are ongoing for Paul Butler and Noya Inoue. Where are we at with that at the moment? Yeah,
I'm due a call with Richard Schaefer later on today. Negotiations are ongoing with Mr. Honda, Richard Schaefer, and yeah, they're just ongoing at the moment, and yeah, that's all I can say at the moment.
And another one that you might be equally as not candid on, rather equally as guarded on, is Natasha Jonas, potentially fighting Hannah Rankin on Sky's all-female card in September. Are we any closer to that?
Yeah, I spoke to Ben Shalom this morning. He reckons it's close to being done. But like you say, as Hannah Rankin said in an interview the other day, she's got other offers on the table, so it remains to be seen. But I think that's a great fight. I think it's a huge opportunity for Hannah Rankin and Natasha Jonas to be involved in one of the biggest female boxing cards in the UK, to be there with Maya and her fight, and Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, and I'm sure Hannah Rankin wants to be part of that. The offer's there to be part of it, so it's up to Hannah Rankin. She's the fighter, she's the boss, she picks a manager, she picks a promoter, and if that's where she wants to fight, and fight Natasha on that date, and the money's good enough, well, hopefully I'll see you September the 10th, Hannah.
There's a rumour that one of the other offers for Hannah on the table may be against Terry Harper, who'd be taking a huge jump up in weight, even more so than Natasha's jump up initially to win the title. What do you make of that, if that is on the table?
Yeah, listen, it's an open market. Eddie has the 130, 135, 140, 147 scene tied up, and now he's mostly trying to get into the 1fight, 154, everything and anything for Natasha not to win anything. So yeah, listen, it's open season. Everyone's open to put any type of offer in. If it's made, then good luck with it, and if it's not, then hopefully Natasha benefits from it.
And what about M22, Joe? When are we seeing you back out staging a show?
Well, Kieran Farrell and myself were doing a show, and it was July the 30th, but because at first when we did the date there was hardly any shows, now everyone's got a show on that date, so getting opponents in and some other, so we pushed it back now to August the 20th, so that'll be at Bolton Arena the same night as Joshua versus Usyk. There'll be a big screen in attendance, so no fear out missing the fight. So yeah, like I say, August the 20th now, that show in Bolton, with 12, 13, possibly 14 fights on it. It's got to be a good night of boxing, featuring Jose Burton, Sean Axler, Jerome Warburton, Marcus Morrison, Callum Thompson, Sahir, some of Croller's kids on it as well, making the debut. There's a kid called Paulie De Silva's son, Mario, really talented kid, one to look out for as well. So basically the next generation of Manchester fighters coming through.
And just to ask a couple of topical issues around boxing at the moment, there seems to be a bit of a buzz, certainly on social media, about a potential fight between the sons of legends, if you like, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Conor said this morning it's not signed yet, but it looks like it's heading in that direction for October. What do you make of that potential fight?
Yeah, I've seen the feedback on social media and I've seen the thought of it, and the first thing was like, what? Like anything else, it's weird really. I've got mixed emotions of it. Listen, fair play to them. Conor Benn, this sport's a tough business, they want to make money, and Eubank Jr. obviously wants to make money, but for boxing, where we're known boxing, we're always on about Jake Paul and everything else. I think this fight, we're taking it from the hardcores into what we call into YouTube, because it's becoming an event. Where's young Ben's plan for fighting for an English, a British, a Commonwealth, a European and a world? And where's Eubank Jr.'s drive gone to become a world champion? He should be fighting one of the top 3 middleweights, super middleweights. The other thing as well is if you took the name Benn and Eubank off them and you presented to the board, I have a welterweight here who's never fought for an English, British or Commonwealth title, going in against a kid that was a former world champion at IBO, been in the World Boxing Super Series, fought Joe Groves, hasn't made one. I think his lightest he's ever been, I think Eubank was 159 in 2015, never made this weight that they're talking about making 7 years later. Surely there's alarm bells and health risks. I'm sure that bout won't be sanctioned, but because it's a Benn and a Eubank, are we really buying into it because we're going to see the fathers at it again? And that's a bit sorry really where we're going with boxing. So what we're going to have next then in 2 years time, Campbell Hatton versus Anthony Croller's son William. Do you know what I mean? Where are we going this now? Do you understand what's happened to the traditional route of wanting to win the titles and become a world champion, and Eubank Jr. wanting to become a world champion? I'm not sure we get stick for this, but being sort of like all the old school or whatever, and boxing and wanting to do the things the traditional route, to do it this way, is it a cash out from Conor? He can rebuild instead of going fighting on, because there's no opportunities at that division at welterweight to win a world title when you've got Boots Ennis and them type of fighters. It's very hard for him. So, but for Eubank Jr., it's like, come on, middle, super middleweight, get in the mix, go and fight Caleb Plant. Come on, let's do it. Do Billy Joe Saunders again. There's big fights at your weight. So, do you know what I mean? He mostly thinks to himself, this is easy in fighting a welterweight, do you know what I mean? And all the build-up. It's both, listen, for the young generation, and boxing is losing fans. The traction for 13 to 17-year-olds is dwindling. They're all watching UFC and MMA. Maybe we need this type of thing to bring boxing fans back into the sport. But like I say, it is what it is, till it isn't.
There's talk that it's likely to be a pay-per-view fight, perhaps the Zone pay-per-view here in the UK. What impact do you think that has? You just talked about the positive implications of bringing people in. What impact do you think it has overall on the sport if this is the type of fight that will be, box office going forward?
Well, I think the Zone also have the first pay-per-view as a KSI event. That's all I need to say.
But how similar is something like this to that YouTuber realm, if you like?
Well, that's where we're going now, and that's where we're going with Benn and Eubank there. It's not an event. We understand when we've seen Triller and they're doing like Roy Jones and Mike Tyson after the careers, but let's just concentrate on careers. Why don't you want to become a world middleweight champion, a world thing? Why don't you want to become a British welterweight champion? I don't think Conor Benn, has he fought for the English? No, I don't think he has. I don't think he's ever done 12 rounds. So
maybe the Payno rematch might have been 12.
Yeah, so then already the rumours are circulating. Well, Eubank will agree to it. He'll turn up, he'll fail weight, he'll pay the fine, and the fight still goes on. So I don't know. It's good because you understand the name Hammer, but it's clutching at straws to try and make a fight in British boxing. Yet there is really good fights to be made in British boxing. Really good fights. Do you understand? Mark Heffron, Lennox Clarke at the weekend is a really good fight. But there is good fights to be made in British boxing in all the divisions. We've just got to get back to having good domestic fights and everyone fighting each other.
How do we get back there, in your view?
I think that's just the promoters just working together. We've seen in the past over the years, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Mayweather, Pacquiao, all them big fights that said they couldn't be made, all eventually made. And I think for the benefit and the best for the whole of the sport, everyone's to sit down and just do a deal, which is fair and reasonable. And the fighters are the people that are in charge. They should demand, when you're a boxer and you turn pro, you pick your trainer, you pick your manager and you pick your promoter. And the fighters should go, no, you go out for me, you're getting a percentage and make that fight for me. And that's it. And I think the board needs to start making them fights, putting them together as well.
Do you think the board needs to take a serious look at Ben Eubank Jr. if it does get signed, in terms of the safety aspect, I mean?
I think there's two. For Conor Benn, there's no, the experience and everything else. And I'm not knocking Conor Benn. I think he's improved vastly from when he first came onto it. He had that dodgy fight early on in his career, but he's come on really well. And Tony Sims has done a great job with him. Huge Conor Benn fan, but I just think to myself, wow, it's a bit like Castro. But for Eubank Jr., who's done 168 and 160, now you're taking him down on 158, allegedly 156, and his lightest in his career is 159. He needs to be assessed and looked at all the time, because if anything was to happen, anything, wow, what all for the price of $1 when there was huge outcry for putting Kell Brook up against Triple G, moving up a couple of weight divisions. Kell Brook was a world champion at the weight division moving up. Conor Benn's never fought at that level.
Dangerous, potentially.
It could be, yeah. We've just got to make sure that everything's done right. But Eubank, Jr. moved up in weight for a reason. He didn't move down, did he?
Joe, really, really appreciate it. Best of luck with Mark on Saturday night.
No problem,